Willi Thurnherr, welcome to CNN Money Switzerland.
Oh, hi, Hannah.
A lot of people might suggest that pensions are a pretty dry subject. What excites you about pensions?
Oh, I'm working in the pension area, let's say, more than 20 years. And I would say it's, in a way, a very narrow topic, as you may have perceived it. But in the meantime, a lot of things have changed. So if I look back, the problems at that time were completely different to the problems we have today. And I think this has to do with the complexity of the world, which has increased. So I see every year new problems coming up, but also new possibilities that were not there 20 years ago, how to deal with these problems.
And is it that what interests you about how to deal with the issues that come along, or are you kind of more number-orientated, for example?
I'm, of course, from the background, I'm a mathematician or an actuary, so I'm number-oriented, but I'm oriented in the whole possibilities to solve things. So also investments, of course, technical things, future developments. On the investment side, what is possible today was not possible 20 years ago.
Is it quite interesting to see how pension investments have changed over the years? Because we are starting to see more alternative investments, for example.
Yeah, that's exactly one thing which didn't exist, and a lot of pension funds tried to avoid until we had this, let's say, low interest rate environment, because when we had sufficient yields, then there was no reason to invest in vehicles that are a bit more difficult to understand, a bit more complex, maybe even a bit more expensive. But now in the situation we are with these low bond yields, pension funds are looking for alternatives. And one thing, for example, mortgages, they were in a lot of pension funds' portfolios until, let's say, 5-10 years ago. Then they disappeared. But today, a lot of pension funds are again establishing mortgages as an investment vehicle because it helps. There, at least, they get 1%. Whereas on bonds, it's basically zero.
What about taking more and more risk in the future, though? I mean, are you kind of risk on? I mean, would you look at something like Bitcoin and see that as a vehicle for pensions in the future?
Which ones?
Bitcoin, like a cryptocurrency.
Bitcoin, yeah. Some pension funds are looking into it.
Are they?
They are looking into it. I would say it's still an exception if a pension fund has it. But it's on the agenda of several pension funds. It's on the agenda if you look in pension fund journals. There are some articles there which deal with that. So it's not so far away. It's certainly not standard. And I'm pretty sure there are only a few pension funds which further examine this possibility. But if they get trust or they get confidence that they can deal with that, I'm sure this will also come.
Just as someone who has a pension, of course, I'm not sure that I would be necessarily happy about some choices that a pension fund may make for me. I mean, how much interaction can I have with my fund? Are people interested? Do they care? Or do they just care about the money at the end of the day?
So you, as an individual, of course, you are part of a pension fund, and then it depends whether it's an autonomous pension fund or a collective foundation. But if it's an autonomous one, you can go and apply for an employee or employer representative in the pension fund board, and then, of course, you have a certain influence on the investment strategy. And the same is true if you are in a collective foundation. There is a committee that decides which plan. Maybe they can even decide the investments and things like that. So if you really are interested, there are ways that you get more influence.
And do you see trends moving towards more sustainable investments and things like that because people might have more contact with their pension?
Yeah, ESG, so economic, social, governmental or impact investment, that's a big subject today. Of course, it's not only for pension funds, it's a general issue for, let's say, all investors. But pension funds, because pension fund, they are long-term investors. For them, it's a topic that they have today on the agenda. I think, I don't know whether there are pension funds which don't have it on the agenda today. So maybe they are not a lot advanced, but in all pension funds, I see this topic today.
I mean, that certainly would be aligned with sustainability, but in a long-term strategy, sustainability or sustainable investments and impact investing can be very rewarding.
Yeah, of course, and that's exactly, there is pressure from the scheme members. They want to know how does my pension fund invest, and of course from the pension fund board there is also let's say an interest, because all they want is a sustainable pension fund. So they take all these opportunities that are available, and ESG is one of them.
And how well educated are the people who run pension funds on these issues, all these issues?
Yeah, it depends. There are pension funds of banks, insurance companies. There, let's say, the board members are quite well educated in financial things. But of course, there are also industry pension funds. There, maybe from the background, people are not so well educated. But the law requires that these employee or employer representatives take training and do CMP, so continuous professional CP, continuous professional education. And then, of course, still with that training, they are not specialists, but then they have consultants who help them to understand. And so I think even if they, from the background, are not familiar with all these things, they can take decisions.
And this is where you come in. You act as a consultant.
Yes, I act as a consultant on the liability side, but we also act as consultant on the investment side. So there they get help.
And there is room for improvement from your perspective for these fund managers. If from a pension fund perspective, they review all the time the investment manager. So there is, I would say, a quarterly review is very common. And then, of course, there is always a comparison with the benchmark. So if a manager is not as good as the benchmark, he gets on a watch list, and then if he's on the watch list, he will, of course, the review continues. And if he then is going back to the benchmark, there will be an RFP for looking for a new manager in the same asset class. So that's a process which is pretty common in all these pension funds. And what about some of the problems that we've had in the past? I'm thinking kickbacks and things like that. I mean, have these kind of kinks in the system been ironed out, or are these still kind of pockets of challenges within the system?
No, that has completely changed. I think it has been very common also in the past, let's say until 2005. But then it started, it's like other developments in the financial market, it started to become, or pension funds got aware there are kickbacks, then the law changed. And now, in the meantime, I think all the banks sign on a yearly basis. They don't get kickbacks. If they get kickbacks, then they are disclosed and the pension fund can deal with that situation. So that's part of the past. And I think on my side, I'm from an actuary. We in the society, since forever, it was clear we do consult on a fee basis. If we do brokerage work, we always disclose what we get as commission, and we work against commission. So on the actuarial side, since these chamber for pension actuaries exists, it was always clear no kickbacks, or if there are kickbacks, then they are disclosed
so
to the client.
So you've seen a clear future and a very positive future, I would sum up from what you were telling me here in Switzerland.
Yeah, I think, most pension funds have really done their homework. As I said, 99% of the privately owned pension funds in Switzerland at the end of last year were in a good funding position, no underfunding. So that's a good starting point. If they continue, and of course, every year you need to review all things, then I think, it's going in a good direction. And because we have, by law, the duty to fully fund everything, I think we are really in a good position.
How does it differ for SMEs with bigger companies then?
SMEs, they don't have the same opportunities. Bigger companies, of course, most of them have set up company-owned pension schemes, so they have a long history. Whereas SMEs, they don't have the full choice because they are so small. They have to go to a collective foundation or an insurance solution. And of course, there, let's say, the offers have reduced, especially with regard to fully insured schemes. AXA has turned out of, or will turn out at the end of this year from that market. So if people are seeking for a fully insured solution, it's more difficult to find it.
Zurich Insurance were the first. Does that increase further the pressure then on these smaller companies? And what can they do about this?
Yeah, Zurich stepped out in 2002, so already a long time ago. But they didn't step out completely. So the only insurance company that stepped out completely was basically Generali. They said no collective business anymore. But Zurich, they just took it off balance sheet and introduced a semi-autonomous solution, so a collective foundation which is run on their own risk. And this is a business model that AXA now has chosen, let's say, 16 years after Zurich has introduced that scheme.
So why are they stepping away from SMEs?
They are not stepping away from SMEs. It's just the business model, because this fully insured solution, there they have a lot of pressure.
So people employed at small and medium-sized enterprises are not getting as good a deal now?
I wouldn't say that. The choice is quite big still. Still, it's quite big. I would say, smaller and mid-sized companies, they usually have pension plans which are closer to the BVG minimum. And there, of course, you have guarantees. And this may be for the good of the people, but it's clear that the pension scheme have limited benefits. For example, if you look at construction companies, they may even have big construction companies, they may even have their own pension fund. But let's say the industry standard is benefits are low, as salaries, by the way, are as well. And so, let's say, benefits compared to big SMI companies are relatively low.
But surely you need even more support for your retirement provision if salaries are lower. So potentially these people should have more options and potentially.
Potentially, yes.
But they're not getting this.
I would say, from a pension plan perspective, each employer selects the pension plan. I think the offers are there. There is a big variety of possibilities. But if you look then from an employee perspective, and I think that's not only true for low earners, everybody should have a look at his pension benefit statement, look whether he is happy with what he may get at retirement age or not, whether he can survive or continue his current standard of living, and then take actions. And this shouldn't happen only when he's 60, but maybe already with 40, and make some planification, what is possible, what is necessary.
And do you think there is interest, though, and enough people are interested in their pensions, or should people take more interest in their pensions?
I would say if I think 10 years back, there was little interest because everybody felt it is safe, it's good. Now, of course, the complexity of the world has grown, not only with regard to pensions in general. And I think we are living now in a more complex world and everybody should take care on his pension. I think, when I look back, pension in the newspaper was not a big deal 10 years ago. Now, we had the pension reform, so it was in the press every day. We can read many articles in the press. There are TV emissions that show pensions, so everybody gets a bit a flavor of pensions, and so people are much more aware that this is an issue and that they should look at it. Of course, it's always the same. Some do it, some not.
But 10 years ago, were we in a better position? I mean, what happened in the last 10 years for us to be more aware of the pension situation?
Yeah, a lot of things happened. Until 2002, interest rates were on a 4% level in Switzerland. Now they are on 0. So no, even negative at the end of 2016 for, let's say, 10-year government bonds. That never happened before in the history of bonds. So that's a new situation on financial market. Then we have the issue of longevity, which is positive for us as persons, but it's a problem for pension fund. And so I think all these things came up in the last couple of years. And so the world has also been more complex with regard to this issue. So the investment possibilities are more difficult than they have been in the past.
So how then can you remain so positive about pensions here in Switzerland?
Yeah, even if it was with some delay, but pension funds are aware that these problems are here. So they have started to react. And of course, this had not always a positive impact for the employees or for the key members of a pension fund. But what they have done basically is all have adapted their investment strategy to the new situation. All have taken measures to, in a way, de-risk the pension fund, and all have also taken measures to deal with this increased longevity. So I think pension funds have done the measure, have taken measures, but on the other hand, of course, taking these measures, that has partially been shifting risk from the pension fund to the employees and reducing pension. So that's, of course, then a consequence of these actions the pension funds have taken.
So how then does Switzerland compare to our European counterparts? Because our system here is different.
Yeah, it's different. It's not different to all countries. For example, Netherlands has a pretty similar pension system. UK, let's say the old system has been pretty similar, but there are some peculiarities in Switzerland. So, for example, we have all pension funds are fully funded according to Swiss law. That's the same in the Netherlands, but, for example, not in Germany. So that's something where we are a bit ahead. Then what is also special in Switzerland is that employees take their pension promises if they choose a new job with them. So they transfer it from, let's say, the old pension fund to the new employer's pension fund. That's unique. Even, I would say, globally, that's unique. And what's also different in Switzerland, what you accrue in form of a lump sum. So if you go, you can change your pension, your benefit formula in Switzerland, even for the past service, which is unique in the world. So that are things that are really special in Switzerland. But they have also advantages for, let's say, it takes out risk from the pension fund.
Sure, are we rightly proud of the system then?
I think Switzerland can be proud of of his system, not only the pension system. I think there are many new countries, new in the sense that build up a pension system that are looking to Switzerland with the three-pillar system. Even if you look at UN reports, they recommend exactly, let's say, what we have: a state pension system, an occupational benefit pension system, and a pension system where each person looks for its own. So the three-pillar system is widely seen as one of the best systems and is recommended everywhere. Having said that, it's clear it's not perfect. We can progress.
So the progress is coming. I mean, we're talking about new votes next year that tie in pensions with tax reform as well. Do you think that's the right way to go? Because, I mean, if we're doing this, then people aren't happy with the situation. I mean, you paint a very positive picture, but there are flaws in the system.
Yeah. So, as I said, it's not perfect. And we are certainly suffering in the first pillar from the demographic development. Mm-hmm. So what we see, when the first pillar was introduced in 1948, we had around 5-6 active employees that paid one pensioners. Now, no, 7 employees that paid one pensioner. Now it's 3.5 active employees that pay one pensioner. Mm-hmm. And it is expected in 2050 that there will be 2 active employees that pay one pensioner. So it's a pay-as-you-go scheme, as you know. And that, of course, that's a real problem. And now, we have this connect with the tax deal and the first pillar deal, which are connected or linked together. Trump would say, OK, it's important to make a deal. I think there are this package. One has nothing to do in principle with the other. But the idea is every penny we lose in taxes will be, and this is about 2 billion per year, will be paid to the first pillar, and this helps the funding of the first pillar. And so what is the idea of the package is to win voters from all parties that can support the whole package, even if they may not agree with all parts of the package. We will see how it works.
But what if it doesn't go through? Aren't we in big trouble?
At the moment, we are still fine. So the first pillar is still funded OK, but the coming years will bring trouble if we do not change the funding of the system. OK,
so how then do you plan on spending your retirement when it comes?
Yeah, it's some time to go still. But there are many things I would like to do. I have hobbies, I do a lot of things. I like family life, I go hiking, skiing, jogging.
So you don't see that you will have to work necessarily longer in order to earn your pension by the time that time comes?
To be honest, if I look at my retirement, my favorite model is not 100 to 0, but a little bit the phase out. And I personally, I can easily imagine to work longer than 65, but not on the same pace as I do today. Okay. But a bit a phase out, that would be my ideal solution.
But you think that potentially that kind of phasing out will be the only option for us in the future, given the pressures on pensions?
No, I don't see. It depends on the person. When you feel fit, when you still feel you are in the business, then I think that's probably the preferable solution. Some people, they just feel when they are 60, it's enough. But
the point is that choice might not be yours to make. I mean, there are political discussions going on right now that could change that for us.
It's clear there are political discussions, and there is also always the employer. There are restructurings everywhere, so you can always plan. But I think the biggest risk is: do I have my job then? Is there a restructuring, and then I have to leave to look for another job? I think that's more unpredictable situation than the political thing, because on the political side it's usually long term, so you have time to plan.
So do you see us working till we're 67 here in Switzerland in the future?
At some point in time, I am convinced we have to do that, because, you know, when the first pillar was founded, then people, when they were 65, they had maybe 15, 20 years to go. Now it's 26 years or 22 years, 25 years. So our life expectancy or our retirement time has increased. And, you know, that's nice for us. But on the other hand, this may cause longer pension payments, and this needs more money. And to deal with that issue, we have to work longer and still have a longer retirement phase.
Willi Thurnherr, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.